Good morning. It's Wednesday, November 5th, American Football Day. I spend a lot of time around football lately. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it, but here's what I can now confidently tell you, having been thrust into the world of football and been forced to very quickly learn a lot about it. Football is a game of yards. There are many of them, and you got to run them or kick them. Sometimes throw them. Come to me with all your football questions. I'm basically a professional now. And now, the news. I'll get into election results shortly, but first, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush's vice president, and the man who led the country into the War on Terror, putting us into the Iraq War, where 4,431 service members died, and another more than 35,000 were injured, and an untold and still unfolding number of those who came home are dealing with the consequences of returning to a country that consistently shutters the resources that were promised to them when they went overseas. And so we don't know, and we'll never know, the true cost of the War on Terror. Has died. He was 81 years old. Legacies are complicated things, and while I have many, many opinions on anything, actually, quite literally everything, things I don't even know about yet, give me a second and I will have a passionate opinion on it. I don't think this is the place for opinion or speaking ill of the dead. Ironically, his final presidential vote was in 2024, and he let it be known that he was casting that ballot for Kamala Harris. Like I said, legacies are complicated things. And now, talk election results to me, baby. All the cool kids went to the polls on Tuesday. Unless you voted early, or you voted by mail, or you didn't have an election, there are still plenty of reasons that you could have not gone to the polls on Tuesday and could still be cool. The point is, eligible voters who don't cast a ballot are losers. So distracted already. That never happens. That's crazy. If you're new to the show, I'm super professional. I never lose track of things. There have been a few elections since Trump's second term began, but with mayoral, gubernatorial, and public policy elections all over the country, Tuesday truly was the first referendum on Trump's second term. And what are the people thinking about Trump? Turns out they are not fans. Yeah, it turns out Americans are not super into fascism. Some would even say they're anti-it. Use the old democracy to fight a dictator, a tale as old as time. Let's run down the scoreboard here. In New York City, Zohran Mamdani beat Andrew Cuomo and will become the next mayor of America's most populous city. Cuomo entered with incredible name recognition. Not for anything good, but still people knew his name. Eric Adams dropped out of the race and encouraged supporters to vote for Cuomo. Trump threatened to take federal funding away from the city if Mamdani won. Even the people who supported him needed to learn how to spell and pronounce his name, and still. When Mamdani won the primary, Cuomo went out and decided to remember that he's an independent. So he stayed in the race, running as an independent. But still, Mamdani's victory was a lock early in the evening. There was a Republican in the race as well. His name is Curtis Sliwa, and the best I can say about him is that he certainly was a candidate. He definitely was in the race, and no one can take that away from him. He earned 7.1% of the vote. Way to go, Curtis, I guess. In New Jersey, despite the concerns of the voice of the tri-state area, that would be one Ashley Dillon Zazarino, Dillon is her middle name, former Navy helicopter pilot and federal prosecutor, Democrat Mickey Sherrill, will be the state's next governor. In New Jersey, police responded to bomb threats at 7 polling places. They were found not to be credible, but still, 7 different polling places had bomb threats. Additionally, New York City and federal authorities responded to what they called an elaborate swatting attempt at targeted polling sites in the city. That did not stop voters from getting out there and making their voices heard. New Jersey, once a Democratic stronghold, has become a bit of like a little maroon ball of stress in recent years. So while I'm inclined to think that Zaz is right at all times, as is the case in any normal and super healthy friendship, despite polling showing Sherrill with a lead for most of the race, I actually don't think that she was the only New Jerseyite? New Jersey-fornian. That's it. I think New Jersey-fornian. She was not the only New Jersey-fornian worried about this race. In fact, it was this race here out of New Jersey that told me what the rest of the night would look like. And if you are a Democrat or just someone who enjoys the basic tenets of democracy and wants to make sure that we get to keep fighting for it, it was a pretty nice evening on Tuesday. Virginia elected its first female governor. Now, to be fair, that was going to happen no matter what. Both the Democratic and Republican candidates were women, but the Republican candidate was worried about what happens to solar power when the sun goes down. So I'm not sure she was the best woman for the job. You know what I mean? And while I don't think that that was the biggest problem that voters had with her, it certainly didn't help. In the end, Virginia went blue all the way down the line, electing not only Abigail Spanberger for the first female governor of the state, but they also elected a Democratic lieutenant governor and attorney general. I talked about this last week, but Virginia is also joining the redistrict fight and will soon ask the voters, hey, do you want to redistrict for a couple minutes so that we can fight for the future of democracy? Now, though, when they ask that question, they will be able to point to California as an example of a state that is doing it. That's right, California's Prop 50 also passed on Tuesday. That means the state will temporarily redistrict itself in reaction to many Republican states that are gerrymandering voters out of the democratic process at the request of the president. The redistricting will last through 2030, and then the state will return the job of drawing districts to the Independent Redistricting Commission. On Tuesday morning, Maryland announced that it is also joining the fight. Governor Moore announced the creation of the Governor's Redistricting Advisory Committee 1 week after the state Senate president, who's also a Democrat, told state lawmakers that they would not be redistricting. So that it probably makes for a pretty awkward lunchroom. In Pennsylvania, every few years they have to do a little check-in on their state Supreme Court just to see how people are feeling about the justices. Can you believe that? Voters just get to check in. Hey, have you been on any private jets lately? Did your spouse support insurrection? Has your fond of flags spouse put out any super inappropriate flags outside of your home or on your boat? Have you twice leaked a Supreme Court ruling and or pretended to check the couch cushions or something for the person that leaked the rulings? And then when you looked in one place and didn't find them, did you give up because you know who did it and you just don't want to lose a seat on the bench? No to all? Okay, cool, you're good to stay. I don't know if anyone's mentioned it lately, but I think we got to unplug and then plug our Supreme Court back in. I'm telling you, Pete Buttigieg had some really good ideas for the court. Someone go ask him what he wanted to do about it. Anyway, again, I never get distracted. This is a very rare thing. If you're new here, this is rare. Stick around. So again, in Pennsylvania, voters are asked every few years if they want to keep their justices on the bench. They don't ask about all of them at the same time. 3 of their justices were on the ballot. Voters were asked for those 3, yes or no, keep or no keep. All 3 justices were backed by Democrats, and all 3 of them were voted to stay on the bench. Detroit elected its first female mayor. She will replace Mike Duggan, who is a Democrat, but is running for governor of the state as an independent because he is too afraid of Jocelyn Benson to run as a Democrat. So I would like to ask Duggan, what policies of the Republicans, specifically those of Trump, are you a fan of enough that you're willing to move over to that side of the aisle? What liberal policies are you willing to walk away from? If you're not even brave enough to debate Benson, what else aren't you brave enough to do? Why should voters trust you if you're not even willing to be honest about your political beliefs? Those are just a few of my questions. Man, next year, reading these results and being able to announce that Jocelyn Benson has won the governor's race is going to be awesome. Hands down, there's nobody that is better suited to lead Michigan than somebody who has already done such amazing work statewide. If you are in Michigan, Jocelyn Benson for governor. And what of the ballot measures? If you are only watching with your ears, what you don't know is that I don't have any graphics now for ballot measures. If you're watching on YouTube, Spoiler alert, I don't have any graphics for ballot measures now. It's a work in progress, this show. It took 4 years to decide to go onto YouTube. I'm going to really have it together by 2037. You'll see. You'll all see. Telling you, $10 million a year or a walk. In Maine, voters rejected harsher voting laws and approved a red flag law that allows family members or law enforcement to petition the court to temporarily prevent people at risk of harming themselves or others from having weapons. In a real I neglected to read the room moment, Texas swung the clear other way and will amend their constitution to both require citizenship for voting, and yes, I'm sorry, but there will be a quick lecture here just for a moment. Citizenship is already required to vote. Full stop. You already have to be a citizen to vote. They drag this one out every once in a while because it seems like a no-brainer. But this is not a problem anywhere. And the reason that we know it's not a problem is because fraud by voters is not an issue. Period. Full stop. It's just the math of it all. Look, I want the best, safest, greatest elections possible. And that includes, as mentioned, the safest. If fraud by voters was an issue, I would want to fix it. The only reason they bring this one out is so that they can try and scare people away from voting, confuse them out of voting, or act as if there is fraud where there isn't any. It's also another way to get a voter ID. A voter ID is a poll tax. It is not about protecting democracy. It is about hiding it away from anyone they think might use it in a way they don't want them to. There we go, lecture over. They also added to the Constitution the idea that parents have to protect their kids and make decisions about their upbringing. Okie doke, that makes sense. Parents got to protect kids. Doesn't say what those decisions are, but jeepers. I wonder if there'll be, decisions like don't be gay and don't be trans. That certainly wouldn't be what this is about, would it? Yeah, it is. It definitely will be. And you'd think my favorite ballot measure would be Maine protecting voters' rights, right? No. Instead, it's this. In Colorado, voters elected to send $12.4 million in tax overages to a school meal program to make sure that kids have free meals. What was the other option? Where could that money have gone instead? It could have been returned to the taxpayers. This money could have gone back to them. They decided to send it to the kids. So when Donald Trump tries to say that this election wasn't about him, when he tries to say, as he has, that everyone would have done better, Republicans would have done better if he was on the ballot, he was. Today is day 36 of the shutdown. This is the longest shutdown in the history of the entire country. The only other shutdown that was the second longest shutdown was also from Donald Trump. SNAP benefits aren't being paid out, either at all or on time. That's kids and adults, but it's kids not having access to already meager funds that they depend on so that they don't starve. And that's happening while the president builds a ballroom. And in Colorado, voters could have gotten money back, and they instead decided to send it to make sure that kids they don't know will have food. Our democracy is the envy of the world. America is the great experiment. And I know right now it feels like we're watching the beaker overflow and the whole thing catch on fire. But there are two things that I have said over and over and over again. Two separate ideas that I want to come back to yet again. First, that story about the car being parked on top of the missile silo in Wyoming. I've told this story a few times. I'm very honest about the fact that I heard it first on Rachel Maddow's show, and it's something that I really latched onto. But there's a missile silo in Wyoming. Missiles underground. All of a sudden, the alarm goes off as if the missile is about to pop up out of the silo and take off. Normally, I tell the story better than this. So everyone's trying to figure out what to do, and someone thinks, I'm just going to park on top of the silo cover. The idea being that when it opens, it'll be like yanking a tablecloth off of a table really fast, and then the car will crash down on the missile, and maybe that'll stop it. It's not the strongest idea, but this is America. And in times of crisis, under, over, or around, we find our way through. We are in the middle of a hostile government takeover. literally in some places. The worst kind of person, one who chooses to be cruel and vindictive, who stands against everything that this country is meant to stand for, is our president. But he is not forever. This moment is not forever. Under, over, or around. A man whose supporters barely knew his name a year ago became the mayor of the most populous city in the country on Tuesday. The biggest state in the country is going to redraw its maps to fight back against the gerrymandering that the Republicans are doing, and it's giving other states the courage to do the same. A car over a missile silo. Under, over, or around. We are finding our way through because the experiment isn't over yet. It does not end with a man who is so vindictive that he takes food away from hungry children while he builds a $300 million ballroom, destroying the hundreds of years of history inside of it. And if you are looking for what it is that is still here worth fighting for, what on earth we would drive a car onto a missile silo for? In Colorado, voters had the chance to literally get their own money back. And instead, they chose to give $12.4 million to make sure that school kids could get free meals. And that's it. That's the news. I'm proud of us. The world watched us vote. And what we showed the world is that just because someone represents us, it does not mean they represent us. This is just the beginning. America is an experiment. That means that no one knows what's coming next. We definitely didn't know that we'd be here. The next step is up to us. The midterms are next. Let's keep this party going. And because you love to party, because you are the party in every single room. And because of that, I'm proud of you.